to keep people safe. He wants to increase war spending by $500 billion. And I don't need to tell anyone here we are not going to bomb our way to safer communities. So I intend to help rip that budget up and write bills that keep families safe. But beyond that budget, we need serious leadership at the FBI that the American people can trust. And I am deeply concerned about the reports that your leadership has not been serious. We need somebody at this agency who's focused on solving criminal cases, not passing out branded bourbon or jetting around the globe. Your job is to be reachable. And I know Senator Van Hollen asked you about this, but I got to say, if you want to pass out liquor or pop bottles in a locker room, stick to podcasting. Leave law and order to people who really do care about justice and appearances. That is really critical. And it's what I am really deeply concerned about, and so are many people. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Can I respond? This is what real leadership looks like at the FBI. Every one of you was given it. This is what's happened under my tenure at the FBI and the Trump administration. 20-point drop in the homicide rate, 45,000 violent offenders arrested last year, twice as many as 2024, 2,450 criminal gangs disrupted. That's a 322% increase from 2024. 6,900 child victims have been located since I've been in the seat. That's a 144% increase. 2,900 child predators and human traffickers arrested. That's a 70% increase. And we've arrested 8 of the top 10 most wanted fugitives in the world in 14 months. That's twice as many in the 4 years combined. That is what the men and women of the FBI are doing, well-resourced. Everyone should take a look at this. If people want to continue the baseless, fraudulent, false personal attacks at me, that's great. Keep the target on me, as I've always said, but the mission has never been better.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just respond to those.
Senator Murray.
I appreciate the work of our FBI agents, but leadership, serious leadership, is a concern. And we are seeing the pictures of passing out branded bourbon and what happened at the Olympics, and jetting around the globe and all the rest of it. And that, I will say again, Mr. Chairman, is of deep concern to me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. I'd like to begin with the agency that you lead, Director Patel.
So
over the
if you're
past
just joining
decade
me,
or so, the FBI
thank you
has
and
come
welcome.
under
This
intense
is
and
FBI
justified
Director
scrutiny
and
for perceived
semi-functioning
and
alcoholic
actual
Kash
misuse
Patel
of agency
is
personnel
testifying
and
right
resources
now
for
before
political
the,
objectives.
Senate
Director Patel, what
Appropriations
steps
Subcommittee.
have you taken
He is
to
testifying because the
refocus
Republicans
the
are
Bureau
trying
to
to
its
move
core
a
missions
reconciliation
of
bill
counterterrorism
forward in the
and
next 2 weeks, and they want a
counterintelligence
shit
on
ton of
federal
money.
law
It's a
enforcement
$1.5 trillion
and on criminal justice.
Thank you, Senator.
budget.
I think
It
the
might even be a
weaponization
little
of
bit more.
law
I think it's
enforcement you
1.5
spoke
trillion
of
just for defense.
was caused by the centralization
the reason that this
of the
reconciliation
FBI
is
in the National
so
Capital
meaningful
Region. What
is
I mean
because
by
the
that
Democrats
is,
are not going to be
before
able
I
to
got in
stop
the
it with a
seat,
filibuster.
over
That's what
1/3 of the entire
reconciliation
FBI
means. Senate
workforce was
Democrats won't
located
be able
in
to
the
stop
National
this bill.
Capital
It just
Region.
takes a
When I
simple
got here, I
majority
put 1,000 agents
to
into the
be
field
able to move the
permanently.
bill forward.
Every single state got
You're
more
going to hear a
agents
lot
than they've
more
ever
of this,
had.
and I don't know
Behind
why
that,
the
I
media
sent
isn't
300
covering it
intelligence
because
analysts
this
into
is
the
all
field
scheduled
permanently.
to
Behind
come
that, I
to a
sent
head
500
within 2
support
weeks.
staff and program
And it's a
managers into
major-
the field permanently.
major
And
taxpayer-funded
that's only
effort.
CONUS. We've also expanded
I
our
figured I
overseas
would. I know
footprint.
earlier today,
So
if you joined us, Kash
decentralizing
Patel
the bureaucracy of
was
Washington, removing the red
testifying
tape in the
before-
bureaucracy, putting agents
I'm
in the
sorry,
field in
Drunken
Nebraska
Pete
and everywhere
Hegseth
else is how we're getting the mission
and,
done. And no one at
General
this
Kane,
FBI is allowed to
chairman of the
politicize
Joint
or weaponize law enforcement. If you
chairman of
do,
the Joint
you don't get to
Chiefs
work
of
there
Staff
anymore.
and Secretary of Defense were
Thank you. We all know that our
also
country faces
testifying in
mounting
front of the Senate
and increasingly
Appropriations Committee.
complex
I think it
threats
was the
to our
Appropriations Committee
homeland
earlier
from
today as
foreign
well.
adversaries
We
and
covered that. You
domestic
can see the video,
operatives who are
the video
acting
recording of that
on behalf of
Substack and
these
YouTube.
malign foreign interests.
Well, Substack now
These
will be up on YouTube in a
adversaries
bit,
have seized on
as
several
will this
recent
later
global
on.
conflicts to
I want
try
to cover
and
this
undermine
live.
America's
I usually have a
geopolitical
lot
interests
of
by sowing fear and dissension
commentary
here at home.
that I share during these
the
hearings.
FBI is tasked with
because sometimes
investigating
you need to
foreign
fact
and
check the
domestic
liars and the
threats
creeps
to the
and the
United
weirdos in the
States.
Republican Party
Director,
and
can you
Trump's
tell us
liars and creeps
how
and
is
weirdos.
the Bureau coordinating with other federal,
I don't know
state,
that
and local law
when the
enforcement
Democrats
agencies,
are challenging
other
Patel,
members
I don't
of
know
the
that I'm gonna need
intelligence
to
community,
interfere
and the
or
military to
interject
monitor
all
and
that
mitigate
frequently.
threats to our
'Cause
homeland.
Kash
What
Patel
we've done
he is
specifically
the
with
joke
the
of the
Homeland Security
administration
Task
right
Force
now.
in
If Drunken
59
Pete
separate
Hegseth, who
locations
we
is bring in every
covered a
single
little bit
agency
earlier
into one roof
is,
and centralize the collected intelligence that they all piece together with their state and local partners. That's critical to the mission set. We've also done things like stand up the C4, the counter-coordination fusion cell in Southwest Arizona, specifically targeting the drug trade with embedded DOD on a DOD facility, a DOW facility. So we're leveraging all capabilities
for the
across the board.
administration. I mean, Donald Trump is the main embarrassment, but
we have
anybody else is an
2,000 terrorism
embarrassment.
cases at
Donald
the
Trump comes to
FBI.
power.
Our CI
So,
work has
but
expanded,
Patel's in
not
deep
gone
shit,
down. As I've said,
politically.
we've arrested 44%
And,
more
I
espionage actors
imagine
from China,
it's just
Russia, and the
inevitable
DPRK
matter
and
of
Iran
time
alone.
until the idiot
And we're doing
fires,
that because the interagency,
Patel.
including the intel
So,
community, is finally providing us with
Patel,
ways to
I'll
turn
often come on
information
and
and
speak. I
intel
might
into
share,
evidence that we can use in a court of
share
law.
some of the Republican
Thank you,
questioning
Director, and
of
please
Patel.
thank the
I don't think I'll
members
do
of
much
the
of it because it's
FBI
all
for me as
feckless
well.
nonsense trying to defend
Administrator
him and the
Cole,
validity of Donald Trump. It's
from
trying to
the Chinese
normalize the
precursor
indefensible.
chemicals to
It's
the
trying to,
cartel-facilitated
make
cross-border
the
smuggling
crazy
efforts,
seem
the
reasonable
global
and
supply
successful.
chain
And I have little patience for it. We'll share some
undergirding
of
that
it.
illicit drug
But unless
trade
there's
is posed
some
a serious
staggering
challenge
reason,
for federal law
I don't
enforcement.
know that I'm going to
And the
interject
DEA and
all
other
that
federal
frequently
agencies have
when
made
the Democrats
progress
are
in exposing and disrupting various
challenging Patel,
aspects of
questioning
this
him because
often opaque
he's
and
so he's so
disturbingly
ridiculous.
well-resourced network.
That I think
Administrator,
it's sort of
I
like,
was on Codell with
a picture is
chairman
worth
of the
1,000 words,
subcommittee
and Kash
in
Patel
China,
testifying
and
for
the
himself
precursors to fentanyl is something that we
it
brought
speaks for
up
itself.
to
And
various
watching
officials
this,
in the Chinese government.
this unqualified,
Have you
honest
seen a
sociopath,
change in
try
the
to
illicit
lie
drug
under oath
trade
his way out of the
recent
mess
years,
that
and
he's dug for
especially
himself,
with
and
your
the fact
time
that he likely
at the
doesn't have the
agencies?
support of the
What do we
imbecile in
see
the White
on the
House
ground?
anymore is entertaining. But before we get
At the
to that, let me
ground
just
level,
bring
the
the
teams
live
are
up
working
as we
extremely
have.
well.
We still
Not
have,
only
I
in
think it's
China,
Republican Senator
under the
Fisher.
ambassador's
Honestly, I don't even know who
leadership,
she is.
but as
I
we
think
continue
she's,
to target the
while
Mexican
she's speaking
cartels,
before the next
Sinaloa
Democrat, and I don't know who's
CG&G,
coming up
that
next.
received a
But we still
precursor
have
not only in
Democrats,
China.
Republicans,
We
Senator
need to
Fisher.
make sure
Fisher,
there's
now I have
leadership
to
eye
realize.
on the northern
I
border.
think
We continue
she's,
to target the
while
Mexican
she's speaking
cartels,
before the next
Sinaloa
Democrat, and I don't know who's
CG&G,
coming.
that
If anybody's
received a
saying
precursor not
that,
only in
it's
China.
Republican,
We
Senator
continue
Fisher.
to make sure there's leadership
While
eye
we're
on
waiting
the northern
for
border. We continue to
chat
target
while
starting
she's
more
speaking
cartels,
and I don't know who's coming. If anybody's saying that, Republican, I was watching while we're waiting for chat while she's speaking and I don't know if anybody's saying that, Republican, I was watching while we're waiting for chat while she's speaking and I don't know if anybody's saying that, Republican, I was watching while we're waiting for chat while she's speaking and I don't know if anybody's saying that, Republican, I was watching while we're waiting for chat while she's speaking and I don't know if anybody's saying that, Republican, I was watching while we're waiting for chat while she's speaking and I don't know if anybody's saying that, Republican, I was watching while we're waiting for chat while she's speaking and I don't know if anybody's saying that, Republican, I was watching while we're waiting for chat whatever's going on down there and I don't know if anybody's saying that, Republican, I was watching while we're waiting for chat whatever's going on down there and I don't know if anybody's saying that, Republican, I was watching while we're waiting for chat whatever's going on down there seriously and I don't know if anybody's saying that, band feed, but let me seriously. We may not be watching this after a band feed. Adjustments to the sound of my end. There we go. Adjustments to the sound of my end. There we go. That was my fault. I had the sound. I had two sets of sound coming through.
Professionally.
There we go. I'm sorry about that, guys.
Is that's an automatic weapon. What are we going to do to prevent these type of devices from getting out and raising the threat?
Thank you, guys. Sorry about that, guys.
Good afternoon, Senator. Thank you for your question. I think just to stay focused on the topic of machine gun conversion devices, they come in all shapes and forms. Some referred to as switches, as they are sometimes put into semi-automatic pistols to convert from semi-automatic to full automatic, drop-in auto sears for rifles. And ATF has been dealing with an issue related to this for many, many years. The technology has made this proliferate much easier because many of these are either 3D printed now or manufactured in China and shipped to the United States by the container load in some cases. As it relates to the force reset trigger, I'd like to answer that question. That particular type of device was litigated and settled with the Department of Justice not too long ago. I won't be able to comment too much on that specific settlement with the Department of Justice, but it relates to the force reset trigger itself. There are many other types of devices that convert firearms to shoot from semi-automatic to full auto. What we are doing with our partners, state and local partners, our federal partners, and our agents, the devices that have already been determined to be drop-in auto sears, other conversion devices, they remain the same. This settlement relates specifically to the force reset trigger made by Rare Breed. Yes. And I think there's a misconception that this applies to all types of trigger packs that are out there that increase the rate of fire that do not operate in the same way that the force reset trigger made by a Rare Breed does. So it's a very technical, nuanced matter. And our folks at ATF are asking our partners to initiate with us so we can actually examine these devices to see if they're under that settlement or if they actually fall into the other category.
The Washington Post reported that the ATF's chief counsel, Rob Leader, objected to the settlement and reportedly thought that, quote, the devices are dangerous and the classification as machine guns should stand. Did you or your predecessor object to the finding? Is Mr. Leader's objection sound? He's an expert in the law of machine guns.
Yeah, I think, sir, that this is a
I can't.
matter that
I just
might have
fucking
found to
can't.
be a
I knew I
very
said I wasn't going to
technically
interrupt
nuanced
the
issue in the way
Democrats,
that
but
trigger
Senator Reid,
operates.
what the fuck is wrong with you, honestly?
It's a little bit challenging to explain here in
Under
this,
normal
room, but I
circumstances,
think if
under a
we were
normal
able to
administration,
demonstrate the way they operate,
when you have other people
as
from law
compared to a
enforcement
switch like a drop-in
testifying
auto-sear,
that
there's
aren't
a
fucking
clear
Kash
difference, and I
Patel,
think
and you're
that's
not in
where we
crazy
found,
land, you're not
room
in,
for the
you know,
settlement.
the Trumpian circus
I would
2.0, 10,000
I would
times worse than it
suggest
was
that
during
you're looking at
1.0
the
and even
wrong
fucking
criteria,
crazier.
in my view, based
You
on,
don't
again,
waste
carrying
your
an
time
M16. It's the rate
normalizing
of fire.
this
It's not
environment
the
by
construction
asking
of the
what are
sear
perfectly
versus
legitimate
trigger
and
effect.
reasonable questions
And
to
when you have a
other
rate of
people about
fire
fucking
of
machine guns.
30 rounds in
Democracy
4
is on the
seconds,
line
that's an
right
automatic
now.
weapon. And I
And
think
Senator
that's the way
Reid,
you
you are, you know, this is a
characterize,
failure
your
of
weapons. If you need congressional
opportunity.
support, please call me.
This is a
If I
waste
may,
of
sir,
time.
I
You're not
think,
going to get anywhere with
I
them. You can't
understand where you're
speak
coming from,
reasonably
and
with
the
these
rate of
people
fire,
about any
unfortunately, is
particular
not
issue.
what the
And you have a
statute
moment, a
defines,
rare moment,
the machine gun by. So
Well, we should.
when you have
change
Kash
statute.
Patel
No,
on, you know,
Thank you very
available
much.
to you.
Senator
You have Kash Patel
Mr.
available
Chairman,
to
thank
you.
you so much. I
And
want to thank
let's
all of our
just see if
witnesses for
maybe he's
being
talking
here
to me.
today. Director Patel, I'd like to start with you. I want to just highlight some of the great work that the FBI has done in Alabama.
Oh, shut the fuck up. I
So
can't.
over
And
the
that's what
last
you do,
year,
Senator
We
Reid.
have seen the
You
Bureau
ask
oversee the arrest of
questions
1,187 criminals. We have seen
about
you
something that is
31
important,
kilograms of cocaine
but is
and
irrelevant
over 3
at the
grams
moment.
of fentanyl.
Completely
If
irrelevant.
you look over just
right,
the last 4
to
months alone,
the future of
you have
democracy.
arrested
Important,
152
but
criminals,
irrelevant.
15 of which
And you let Kash
have
Patel
crimes
sit there,
related to human trafficking,
and you don't go
or
after him.
crimes against
Senator
children.
Reid, as far as I
And that
saw there, didn't have a
includes
single
two-week
question for
operation,
Kash
Operation
Patel.
Southern Star in
The
Montgomery,
politics
Alabama,
of this
which was an
moment matter.
agency operation.
The
where I
politics
believe
of
you
this
had
moment matter.
63 arrests.
This is not these
52
Senate
guns,
hearings aren't about anything right
recovered
now
and 40
other
drug
than trying to save
seizures.
democracy for
As
Democrats.
a resident of Montgomery,
They're not
as
about
someone who is
Senator
raising
Reid trying
her
to look like a
children there,
normal
I wanna
person,
say thank you.
trying to look like a
On behalf of
moderate,
me,
asking
on behalf
normal
of all the
fucking
moms and
questions.
dads
When
that
you
are-
got
that are
drunken
raising their
Kash
family
Patel
there, and
sitting,
on behalf
you
of our
you know,
community, we
you've
say
got this
thank you.
sociopath
And I know that this is
FBI
not just
director
Alabama
back, and now
where
we're
you're
going to
doing
let
this, you're
Katie
doing this
Britt,
across the country.
a
It is why
Trumpian
the
nutcase
FBI
from
has
Alabama,
overseen,
come on and tell everybody how brilliant
dip in recorded murders and
Kash
in
Patel
history. I just want to say thank you. And I think it
You
is
know,
also
Democrats,
why
this
you
is the
have asked
problem we
for a
have
significant
so
increase when it
frequently
comes
with
to
our
actually
Democratic leaders.
returning to your
Not
mission
all of them,
putting criminals
is they
behind
so
bars.
want to be
I
seen
completely support
and
that
heard as
request,
the adults in
and
the room.
just want you
And
to
they're
kind of
so
expand
desperate,
what
even in
that
the
would
most
do.
desperate
Can you
moments,
talk about how
to be
that increase would
perceived
help
as
you continue
better
the
than,
work that
as
you're doing in
normal.
Alabama,
They're still
going
operating
after
in Michelle
criminals, violent
Obama's when they go
criminals,
low, we go
cartels,
high.
and others.
You know,
And of course, across the
outdated
country as well.
2020.
Thank you, Senator.
Even
pass on
Michelle
your
doesn't
condolences
go
to the
there
workforce
anymore.
For sure, they're greatly appreciated.
But
We're
meanwhile,
doing two things.
you have
As
this
I
imbecile,
discussed
this
earlier,
feckless imbecile,
decentralizing
up against the
Washington,
wall.
DC, and
If
putting
you
human
don't have
capital in
anything
the
else
field.
to
And in order
spend
to
your
keep
5 minutes right
backfilling
now,
that human capital, we need
hammering
more. So
Kash
we need to
Patel
take
about?
on the,
Hammer him
outdated
about being a
onboarding
functioning
pipeline
alcoholic
program
right now as the
at Quantico. We've
FBI
seen the
director.
BFTC,
You know,
our
it's
Quantico graduation
several
classes
senators have
increased
done it.
Great.
Since I've
But
been,
don't waste our
in this spot
time
because
talking
it used to
talking
take
to
over 14
asking
months to get in, and
questions
we've
to the
shrunk
other
that by over
figurehead
4
weirdos
months.
on the
We haven't
administration
lowered the
administration
standards.
right
We
now
just eliminated the wait
that
time
gives Kash
after
Patel
paperwork
a
application was
moment.
put in. But what we also need to do
He
is
can't
work
have a
with our state and
moment.
local folks
Kash
in the
Patel needs to
field
be backed up
and
against the
provide them
wall
with the advanced training
by every
capabilities they need.
single
Specifically, for instance, the drone program capability.
Democratic
we launched the first ever of its
senator
kind
in this
for state and
group, and
locals ever
I've
in
seen
the
this
history of the
over
US.
and over
A
again
drone, a counter-UAS
in these
program
hearings
at Redstone
when
Arsenal in
these
Huntsville,
senators,
Alabama.
these Democratic
We've
senators,
graduated 65 state
normalize
cops from that,
themselves.
program.
You're talking
The wait
to
list
a
is
table.
long. Every single agency across the country wants
panel
their
full
police
of
officers
fucking
there because
lunatics
they want them there for the World Cup. They want them there
that
for
the
sporting
whole
events. They want
country
them there
thinks are
for
lunatics.
counter-narcotics. So the
And then when
enhancements we
you
requested
you
specifically relate to
decide you're
Arsenal,
going to
Redstone
approach
Arsenal,
any of those
our advanced
lunatics,
training capabilities,
not
including our
about their
cyber center,
fucking
our TDAC
lunacy,
school, and we're the only ones
but
in the world
about
that have a
some
ballistic
policy,
research facility
albeit an
that's housed at
important
Redstone
one,
Arsenal. That's how
like
we
machine guns and
train the
automatic
next
weapons.
generation
These
of law
fucking
enforcement officials,
Second
and we
Amendment
need
gun
more
nuts.
seats, more humans in the seats that we have.
You're going to have,
Wonderful. Well, I hope
you
that
know,
we will
I
continue
mean,
to
it was
support that. I know the
ridiculous
work
what we
that you're
just saw
doing
there
there,
from Senator Reid.
is cutting
And now
edge,
Katie
and it
Britt
also
is, you know,
preparing
the
us for
senator.
what's to come. So thank you.
Where's she from?
And thank the men and
Alabama?
women who
Yeah,
work
the senator from
alongside you for making
Alabama
all of this
has
happen.
another opportunity to
Director
uplift
Zepeda,
the
I know that we
lunatic,
discussed at your confirmation hearing the
make
great work
him
the
seem
ATF is
normal.
doing to combat the
After
flow
Senator
of
Reid did
illicit
absolutely
Chinese
nothing.
vapes,
Let's hear who.
into
let's hear
our
who's next.
nation. And I also know, Directors Seralta, that the Marshal Service was involved in some of the
can't listen.
recent
I don't have it
seizures
in
that
me,
we saw as
especially
well.
after Senator
These
Reid's,
unsafe
pathetic
products target
performance.
kids
There should
in
be
many
no
instances,
single
and I
cent.
think
There
we have
should
got to
be
put a
no
stop to
question
this. Can you discuss
wasted
how you
on the
think
other
that your
people
budget
at,
request
you
for
know,
these agencies is going to allow you to
at
enhance
the table
your
right
efforts
now.
in this
Every
space and
question
get
should be
these
focused
off,
on Patel,
off of our streets?
and Patel should be
Good afternoon,
consistently
Senator. Thank you
hammered
for your question.
for his
As
failures.
you mentioned,
as
Director
a
Seralta,
as
myself,
an
Director
FBI director. I'm just checking while I'm
Director
talking to you to
Cole,
see
I'm
if Patel is up.
and our partners at the FDA.
He should be
are working,
consistently
hand in hand to
hammered
identify these
for being a
wholesalers
lunatic.
and retailers
Hammer
that
him
are
consistently
dealing in,
about the
other
polygraphs.
areas.
And on top of that, we
would love
saw.
to,
I don't know if I
have
was
more
with
agents
Senator
focus
Patty
on this
Murray.
effort in
She,
particular,
prior to
but
Senator
it's,
Reid, she
very
had him
challenging,
rattled.
for us to do so
She
with
had
the
him
budget that we have.
completely
So, and
rattled
I am
because
out of time. I
she
just want to associate
called him
myself with the
out
chairman's comments with
on
regards
giving
to the Marshal
polygraph
Services
tests
and the
because he's
protection
such a
that we
paranoid
provide
psychopath.
our judges from our
to all the
justices,
people around him to
our
make sure
circuit
that they were
court, to our
appropriately
DJs. We
loyal
need
to
make
him.
sure that,
Hammer him on
they
all
have-
that stuff.
You have the resources you need to keep them safe.
But Senator
you.
Reid, don't waste your time
Thank you, Senator Peters.
and embarrass us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
with
and,
just an-
to our
oh,
witnesses
hang
here
on.
today,
Senator
thank you.
Marshall, I
Thank
think.
you
Let's
to
hope- hopefully
each
he
of
can
you
do
for the work
better.
that you do every day, especially during National Police Week, as we all gather here. So again, thank you. Director Patel, we are now more than 2 months into a war with Iran, a leading sponsor of terrorism. And we have already seen at least 3 terrorist attacks related to that war, including one at Temple
Senator
of Israel
Peters, I'm
in
sorry, not
West
Senator
Bloomfield,
Marshall. My mistake.
Michigan,
Senator
where
Marshall's a
Hezbollah
Republican.
inspired attacker rammed a vehicle into a synagogue holding approximately 100 young children. And yet the FBI has not yet put out an intelligence bulletin about the threats to the homeland resulting from this war. Something that is, as I think you you know, usually standard action in coordination with the National Counterterrorism Center and DHS, and is absolutely essential to ensuring that state, local, tribal, and territorial private sector partners are prepared for these threats that we are seeing and actual actions that we're seeing. So my question for you, Director Patel, just to confirm, has the FBI, in coordination with NCTC and DHS, issued a joint Homeland Threat Intelligence Bulletin to state, local, tribal, territorial, and private sector partners on the threats from Iran and its proxies as a result of this war.
I know we have pushed out numerous PSAs, and I believe through the ODNI we have spoken collectively on the matter, but on the synagogue attack, the FBI directly coordinated with the synagogue 3 weeks before and provided training, which the synagogue themselves stated helped prevent the loss of
No, I agree with that. Certainly, I have a question later, but that was a good thing, absolutely. But is there a coordinated bulletin going out to all the entities that I mentioned? We have not found that bulletin. We have not seen that. That has been prior practice for the FBI. I'm wondering why this is different this time. That's my question.
So what I'm saying is we've sent out, the FBI sent out PSAs to all our state and local partners, and I'll check with ODNI, but we should have sent out a coordinated, collected message out on that front.
Well, if you could forward that to me, because we have not seen that. So I'd appreciate that if that's
Yes,
the
sir.
case. If you could forward that to our office, I would appreciate it.
Senator Peters, is a PSA the same thing that Senator Peters is asking about?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
We'll see. I'm, as ranking member of Homeland Security and Government Affairs, Chairman Paul and I, working in a bipartisan way, Chairman Paul, have requested a committee briefing about these threats, about the threats related to what's happening as a result of the war in Iran. About a month and a half ago, we're still waiting to get that briefing from the FBI, and we're the Committee on Homeland Security in the U.S. Senate. Can I get a commitment from you that we will get that briefing as soon as possible?
Absolutely.
Good, thank you. Director Patel, for decades, the FBI, in partnership with the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, has played an absolutely critical role in helping both state and local election officials defend against threats to our election. The FBI briefed election officials on both physical as well as cyber threats. It's helped political parties and campaigns secure their communication systems. That has investigated foreign influence operations, and it's investigated threats against our election workers. And the work was bipartisan, it was technical, and it was trusted over those years. However, today, when we look at what the FBI is doing, it seems to be somewhat different. In January, the FBI seized more than 650 boxes of 2020 election materials from Fulton County, Georgia. In March, the FBI subpoenaed records from a 2020 election audit in Maricopa County, Arizona, an audit that itself actually reaffirmed President Biden's win. And in April, the Justice Department demanded that Wayne County, Michigan, the largest county in my state, turn over ballots from the 2024 election. So, Director Patel, my question is, why should state and local election officials trust the FBI to support them in actually keeping our elections free and fair when the FBI recently appears to be more focused on supporting baseless speculation and debunked conspiracy theories about both the 2020 and the 2024 election?
Well, two things, Senator. Thank you. As to the execution of legal search processes, we went to federal and state magistrates, and like we do in any case, and received a ruling of probable cause to advance any investigations we're working on. As to the overall security of the election, that is of primary importance with us, which is why we at the FBI and me have installed ECCs, election county coordinators, in every single 56 field office that I have. We've also stood up a national security, election security post at headquarters for the upcoming midterm elections. And so we are continuing to keep that a priority and collect information as it comes in from overseas and also around the country.
Well, that was my follow-up question there. I mean, but, you know, what we've been seeing, some of these actions here are ones that are related to these debunked theories. But our officials want to know what is going to happen going forward. They're going to want to ensure that state and local elections are indeed going to be free and fair, and folks are being protected by the FBI. You mentioned a couple of initiatives. What is the main message that you want to tell right now to election officials all across the United States, that the FBI is actually going to be their partner to ensure, as we have seen in the past, free and fair elections that have occurred every single election in the United States in recent history, that it's also going to happen again this year?
That's why we've prioritized and stood up these ECCs. That's why we've prioritized and stood up these national coordination centers. And that's why we're hand in glove embedded with CISA and DHS to ensure the integrity of this upcoming election. We have prioritized that. We have flexed more resources to that, including the personnel I've shifted out to the field. So they're not just at headquarters, are working on election security and election integrity around the country.
Well, as you come before the Committee on Homeland Security, which I appreciate your commitment to have that briefing, we're going to want to do a deeper dive into that, and I would hope you'd be prepared to do it at that time, and you could commit to doing that.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Well, that was lame. Again, two back-to-back senators and two just absolutely pathetic lines of questioning. I mean, Peters was a little better, than the previous senator. It was a little more effective, but he allowed for, like at the end, I'm glad he brought up the 2020, election stuff and the debunked theories. But again, he had an excellent opportunity to back Patel up against the wall by asking Patel, and again, it was the wrong approach. I hate to tell the senators like how to do their jobs, but when they fucking suck at it, I'd be happy to. Senator Reid sucked at his job just 10 minutes ago, and Senator Peters sucked a little less, but still sucked at it. Right? You don't have to be nice to Kash Patel. You have to be accusatory to Kash Patel. You have to mock Kash Patel. You have to make fun of Kash Patel, and you have to be harsh with Kash Patel. Kash Patel is a baby. He's a little boy who's unqualified to do his job, and you can't play games with Kash Patel. You can't try to normalize him by acting like he's normal. You can't approach him the way Senator Peters just did. What you do is you ask Kash Patel. You bring up the debunked theories. You bring up the FBI's search and seizure of nearly 700 boxes of election materials in Fulton County, Georgia. And then you remind Kash Patel that that was illegal, that it was based on debunked theories, and that this is an effort that that he's involved with the village idiot Donald Trump in a silly and stupid effort to interfere with the 2026 election. And then you ask Kash Patel a simple question: did President Trump lose the 2020 election? And then Kash Patel doesn't answer that, and you hammer him, and you ask him that question over and over and over and over and over again until you frustrate him enough that he finally says, President Trump won the 2020 election. And then you continue on and you hammer him with the fact that not only was the intention of the FBI, your crooked group of fools, not only was their intention when they illegally collected the 700 boxes of ballots, when they broke the law, when the FBI broke the law to do that, that we know that your intention is to interfere with the 2026 vote. And we know that the DOJ prosecutor in North Carolina, one of the North Carolina state attorneys, is demanding that the Fulton County clerk provide the names, phone numbers, addresses, and email addresses of the election workers, the poll workers from Fulton County, because their plan is to dox those workers, intimidate those workers, and scare those workers and poll workers all around the country from participating in the democratic process of the 2026 election so that they can somehow control the election. Let me just hang on. Let me just see who's speaking now.
Mexico. Mm-hmm. And after...
who gives a shit? And then you say, so we know, Kash, so explain why do you want to dox these workers? FBI Director Patel, why do you want to interfere with the vote? And then when Patel says, that's not what we're planning to do. We're planning to put all of these people in to protect, and law enforcement will protect the integrity of the vote. Then you remind Kash Patel, no, Mr. Patel, we've never, only in the last several years, we've had two handfuls of actual fraud in the elections, and they were all perpetuated by Republicans, and you give him example of each of those frauds. There is no fraud going on. There never was any fraud, and there never will be any fraud, except for the fraud of you trying to expose poll workers. So explain to me again, why are you trying to expose the personal lives of poll workers? And then you just don't let him off the hook. You just hammer that motherfucker until he either breaks in front of you, and he breaks right there on the dais and loses his shit, or until the chairperson of this particular committee interferes and says your time is up. But you still rattle him. And watching Senator Peters' performance there, once again, I could only be more disappointed by Senator Reid's effort beforehand. And you just, I don't get it. I just don't fucking get it. Everything is on the line here. Democracy is on the line here. The future of America is on the line here. Why would you not use this opportunity to get a soundbite that even is going to appear on Fox News that's going to further humiliate this putz? Why wouldn't you take advantage of the moment? I do not. If you guys can explain it to me, if anybody in the chat, if I'm wrong, please tell me, because I want to be wrong. But we just watched, 10 minutes of two Democratic senators they might as well have been fucking Republicans, because they're behaving like moderate Republicans, since there aren't any. You got the crazy chicken shit GOP senators doing what it is they do. And so far, I've watched two Democratic senators operating like what used to be a moderate Republican, giving this little putz a pass. And I do not get it. Anybody, please, if you've got anything, if you're watching the recorded, this recorded session on YouTube or on Substack, if you can explain to me, and give me some clarity, please put it in the comments section, because it doesn't make any sense to me. Let me see if somebody else is speaking or if it's still Senator Kennedy babbling.
Last week, we recognized May 5th as day to
is that Gillibrand?
Remember
or is this
those who have
Murkowski?
gone murdered, missing Indigenous persons.
Good. I'm glad she's bringing this up.
Unfortunately, in Alaska, this is something that we use some pretty strong words like epidemic and crisis. The Urban Indian Health Institute has reports on the numbers that are out there right now, and in Alaska, we've got 229 murdered, missing Indigenous persons, 80 murdered, 149 that are on the missing list. And the statistic that is always so troubling is that when women go missing, when women come up, are determined to have been murdered, 75% of them are Alaska Native women. I mean, the statistics are just shocking and deeply, deeply troubling. Alaska is the fourth highest state when it comes to murdered, missing Indigenous women in the country. Obviously, we have a large Indigenous population, but it is something where when you listen to the statements from so many Native women that they feel unsafe in their home communities. They feel unsafe in their villages, and they feel probably most unsafe in the biggest village, which is Anchorage. We're working on trying to make some headway here in this space, but we really need to understand where the gaps are. And we talk a lot about the data gaps, and so I'm raising this with you, Director Patel, and asking for your support and that of your team. You have great folks in Alaska, but I would suggest that given we have a small population, big landmass, and a problem and statistics that just don't match up to our demographics, that we need some help. We've got good cooperation between all of our federal agencies, working with our tribal partners and with the state. But I would just ask your commitment today that if you haven't already trained a focus in this area, that you will commit to helping us in Alaska.
Absolutely, Senator. That's why we launched Operation Steadfast Promise, which is the first ever of its kind year-long campaign for crimes on tribal lands across the country, to include Alaska. And I'm proud to tell you today that one of the biggest problems I was informed about over the last 14 months was communication gaps.
Yep.
And the FBI, for the first time ever, completed its pilot program on the Navajo Reservation down in Phoenix area with Starlink capabilities. And we are now going to be delivering to every SAC Starlink capabilities specifically and solely for communications on tribal lands to conduct and investigate tribal investigations.
Well, and I just might add that the communications is one thing amongst the law enforcement, but it's also communicating back to the families,
Yes.
the families that are so anxious. And this is where I think we have some real failures, if you will. And I'm stressing it with regards to Alaska, but it is Alaska Natives, but also American Indians, as you've pointed out there. So I appreciate your commitment on that level. I wanted to ask about your comment, Administrator Cole, when you were talking about the fentanyl that we're seeing.
All right, I don't really give a shit about their nonsense fentanyl conversation where she normalizes the other two. That first line of questioning, although I've been hammering Democrats, and I certainly hammered Murkowski a little bit earlier today about how she was chairing the Pete Hegseth for her cowardice, the way she was chairing the Hegseth interview a little earlier today, and how pathetic she is. And again, as much as I hate to normalize Patel, this situation with the murder of Indigenous women for generations now, the extent of it is staggering. It's staggering. Murkowski wasn't bullshitting when she talked about these. The numbers are stunning in the worst kind of way. This all began. I can't remember the name. I did a little research on it recently, and I got some guidance from somebody who is, Native American and is very involved in activism in this area. So I learned a little bit about this, and I don't remember when the Supreme Court. It was the Supreme Court had made a decision. I can't remember exactly when, but what it did is it made a decision that folks that are not Indigenous cannot be held accountable for crimes on Indigenous lands, on reservations. And I shit you not. That was what the decision determined. That in essence you could commit a crime on tribal lands, and if you weren't from the tribal lands, that couldn't be investigated by the FBI. Your tribal police could investigate that, but there would be no federal resources allocated to that effort, which later became no local resources as well, which later became these unbelievable communication issues where if somebody would commit a crime on tribal lands and they wouldn't get any help from the overwhelmed, overtaxed small tribal police force that has to cover hundreds and hundreds of acres of real estate, they couldn't possibly have the resources to investigate these crimes. And Native women for generations are literally being disappeared. And then you have these other instances where corporate entities will come onto these lands or near these lands, and they will set up shop and they will, build whatever industry they want to build, and they'll bring in all of these men and they'll set up these functioning towns for these working men. And every time these towns are set up for these men who are working, these incidents of abuse and murder and disappearance of Indigenous women kicks up exponentially. It's not just a problem here. It's also a big problem in Canada, and we really don't know anything about it. And it is staggering to me. So, although I don't love the idea of Patel even getting a moment of peace a moment of respite, a moment to breathe, and not have someone hammering him, especially when, I mean, Murkowski's not a Democrat, but when a Democrat is hammering him, and I can't listen to the bullshit questioning of Republicans when they normalize Patel or any of these creeps that are up here on the panel right now. This issue with any discussion, public discussion of this abhorrent, catastrophic, and fucking insane issue of Indigenous women still to this day just disappearing. And when I mean disappearing, I mean fucking disappearing. And very few federal resources, if any, and local resources, if any, being adjudicated to finding them or finding out what happened to them is acceptable, is necessary. Let's see who's speaking now.
And then we'll conclude the hearing, and I'll turn to Senator Van Hollen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think these are the closing statements.
Director Patel, I've been listening carefully to your responses to some of my colleagues, and I want to start with the question that Senator Coons asked you that relates to this article where the headline is Kash Patel's latest firings ousted agents with expertise in Iran. The article says that these individuals were fired for their role in the classified documents investigations of Donald Trump. First of all, is that true?
The article, just like all the other articles you cited, is false, and there's ongoing litigation, so I can't address it.
Okay. You did answer Senator Coons, and I understood your answer to be that the people that were fired, that none of them were part of the group that had Iran expertise. Is that your answer?
No, he asked if they were Iran experts. I said they were not.
Were the group fired? Did it include people who were Iran experts?
No.
Did it include people who were involved in counter-espionage activities with respect to Iran?
I don't have the list in front of me.
So you don't know whether or not you fired people with counter-espionage experience with respect to Iran. You don't know the answer to that question.
I terminated anyone and everyone that weaponized law enforcement.
I see. So it was related, obviously, to the classified documents case. So
that's not what I said.
Well, Director Patel, I understood you to say in response to Senator Murray that you've not redirected FBI resources toward the immigration enforcement effort.
That's not what I said.
Okay. Have you redirected resources away from your core FBI responsibilities toward the mass deportation effort?
No one at the FBI has been permanently reassigned on the immigration front, and when we pull the numbers, the FBI's overall operational field expenditures surged periodically for immigration enforcement activities, including the arrest of 2,000 people with direct ties to foreign terrorist organizations, was 2.4%.
So, okay. So the key word there, I guess, was permanently. You have not permanently reassigned. Is that what you reassigned temporarily?
Surges, yes, sir.
Okay. Have you had a chance to listen to or read about Brian Driscoll's statements about what you said to him and the reasons for his firing?
No, I have not, sir.
So let me just say this, Mr. Director. In your response to me earlier, where you had a little bit of a blow-up, you made a couple provably false statements.
So did you.
No, Mr. Director, I was reading about and asking you to respond to allegations that are made. In fact, I was giving you an opportunity to do that, and you took that opportunity. But in the process, you made these provably false statements that I know are sort of like urban legend in right-wing media about margaritas in El Salvador, which is provably false. And so coming from the mouth of an FBI director to make provably false statements in a hearing like this is extremely troubling. And it leads me to ask whether or not the other things you've been saying are false statements. And so because that's a provably false statement. You made a couple others that are provably false. And this is from the mouth of the FBI director.
The only one
My
that made
final
false
question-
statements is you.
My final question to you, Mr. Director, is do you know that it is a crime to lie to Congress? Do you know that? That's my last question.
I have not lied to Congress.
I didn't
The one
ask you that.
lied to Congress is you.
Do you?
And
I'm not testifying here, sir, and I don't lie.
maybe the next time you run up a $7,000 bar tab, we can talk about it.
Well, see, there you go, lying again. You suggested
in the FEC report. I'll post it right now.
You suggested it was
Hang
public.
on.
It wasn't public money, as you know. That was for a 50-member
Oh,
staff party.
so it was a $7,000 bar tab.
Mr.
Oh,
Patel, I'm glad. Let me just say in closing, Mr. Chairman, two things. I'm glad that you have agreed to take the test regarding, whether you have alcohol problems. I'm glad you agreed with me to do that. You still haven't answered my final question. Do you know, Mr. Director, that it is a crime to lie to Congress? Do you know that?
I do not lie to Congress.
I didn't ask you that.
And you're insinuating that I am because
I asked
you want
whether you know.
You want to correct your time in this session where you got steamrolled by the facts, so you can have a Twitter narrative, so
Mr.
you can
Director,
go raise more money and spend more money on $7,000 bar tabs.
Just let the
and
record
I'm not
show,
going to give
Mr.
it to
Chairman.
you.
The director of the FBI apparently does not want to answer the question about whether or not it's a crime to lie to Congress, and I find that extremely troubling.
I find it troubling that you lie to the American
with
people
law
every
enforcement.
day.
You are a disgrace, Mr. Director.
Not
and
nearly as
the
big as
fact that
you.
you can't answer that question, I will. That concludes my questioning, Mr. Chairman. But I'm obviously very troubled.
So that's pretty interesting. That let me go over some of these. So did you see? I think the most entertaining part of that last moment was not just. It wasn't really what Patel was saying, although that was amusing in and of itself. I mean, I took some notes about Patel lying in real time, but his his body language, the fact that, did you see? He's like, "You're the liar. You're the liar." He's like he wasn't doing any of this stuff before, but as soon as Van Hollen came up and started pushing him with these factual questions and and calling him out on the lies that he said, and all these other things. Actually, even before that happened, when Senator Van Hollen started, speaking with him, he knew he was in trouble. He knew it was going to be a bad moment for him. So he started, he started moving things around. He started, doing all that stuff. His body language was, his body language was out of control. Hang on one second. I just have to close my door. Hold on. Sorry about that, guys. My son had just come home and opened the door, and I couldn't hear what the background noise that was happening out there. So it was, sorry was deleting. Gail, I mean, what do we expect? Bad people. Absolutely agree with you. Miss Patty and a child. Gail, douchebag. Gamer vet dad. His physical evasiveness shows that he's nothing but lying. He is lying, and he is lying under oath. And I wrote down, let me see if I can read my writing. I wrote down a couple of things. So the senator said, Senator Van Hollen, in terms of these articles that are you saying that the articles about your behavior are false? Eventually, about what, I don't remember specifically what he was referring to. Eventually, Patel said, yes, they're false, which was a lie. Were the people, he asked if there were people fired from the FBI, in essence, because they were involved in the classified documents case against Trump. We know that that's exactly why he fired them. Patel lied and said no. He's like, no, no, no. Are you, I mean, so, and this, again, I don't know what the statute of limitations is for lying, lying at a Senate hearing. I don't know if in 2 years from now, Patel could be held in in contempt for perjury. I would assume not. I would assume the idiot will preemptively pardon him anyway. Yeah, I can't read what I wrote here. There were a couple other things that Patel said that I was trying to take quick notes. Have you? Oh, the question of, has he? When Van Hollen said, have you, caught him lying again? Have you redirected your resources, taken people off their jobs, and basically put them on the village idiots immigration deportation bullshit? Patel gave a non-answer. He said they have been temporarily reassigned. I'm sorry, they have been temporarily reassigned. Which is a lie. I'm sure they have been temporary. They may say that they've been temporarily reassigned, but they are full time. There's been ample reporting to suggest that these people are not doing FBI work anymore. They are full time, embedded with ICE and involved in ICE and involved in ICE's ridiculous efforts. All of that is, will come out after this administration. And the fact that Van Hollen asked him several times, do you know it is a crime to lie to Congress? And Patel just wouldn't answer it. And the fact is, he couldn't answer. Well, I'm not the one lying to Congress. I'm not the one lying to Congress. You are. It's you. That's not me. You're the liar. You spent $7,000. There you go. I knew it. I knew you spent $7,000. And that was it. It was a moment. That's all I can tell you. Patel did not disappoint. We'll see what happens after this hearing. There's been ample reporting that Patel is on thin ice anyway. I think there is a belief within these extremist right-wing circles that are surrounding the village idiot Donald Trump that he's going to, which I said before, preemptively pardon them all before he leaves. But they all forget. And I don't know how it is that they forget or that they don't know that the loyalty to the lunatic only goes one way. It only ever has. It only ever will. And the expectation, and as Donald continues to decline cognitively and mentally, as his malignant narcissism evolves and his cognitive ability, his prefrontal dementia devolves, he's going to get more impulsive, more self-absorbed, if that's even possible, right? More unaware of what he's doing and who he's doing it for and why he's doing it. And whether or not he's in any sort of cognitive shape by the end of his reign of catastrophic financial and overall terror, by whether or not Trump is cognitively capable of pardoning all of these people preemptively remains to be seen. And depending on what his mental condition is at that point, whether or not he will. There's no reason that as Trump becomes further detached from reality and he becomes more paranoid, and as, again, his dementia continues and his mental illness evolves, he starts to see conspiracy theories all around him. And there's no telling, how that's going to, affect his decision about protecting Kash Patel. And these hearings, because the Democrats generally are so weak. I'm not talking about Senator Van Hollen, but if you saw Senator Reid, you saw Senator Peters, there's more of that over and over again. Because they're so weak and careful about how they go about questioning Patel, and they're so limited in how far they're willing to push, and they're so ineffectively using their own resources to investigate Kash Patel and what's going on behind the scenes. I don't think it's a stretch to assume that we're probably just seeing the very, very, very tip of the iceberg in terms of the criminality, the corruption, the absurdity, the stupidity. Patel is so fucking angry and nervous. It can't be just that he's worried about being caught, being outed as an alcoholic and a wannabe party animal, being embarrassed by drinking heavily with the men's U.S. hockey team, about handing out bottles of booze, customized bottles of booze to his friends, and being caught red-handed using the FBI plane to fly him and his girlfriend around, or his former girlfriend or whatever, on dates and shit like that, and giving polygraphs because he's so fucking paranoid, polygraphs tests to the people surrounding him just to make sure they're still appropriately loyal. It strikes me as unlikely that those are the things that are really making him twisted and nervous. It's the straight up criminality that I think he is terrified of getting caught on. We saw one crime perpetuated in plain sight, right? And that was the FBI absconding and stealing 700 ballots from Fulton County, Georgia clerk office, from the Fulton County clerk's office. It will be hard to wrap your brain around the fact that a judge actually, legally agreed to give that subpoena. I think when there's an investigation, a congressional investigation, and perhaps a legal one in 2028 or 2029, looking into this stuff, it'll be interesting to see when prosecutors and real FBI agents start digging into that and going down into the rabbit hole of what led to that theft of masquerading as a legitimate investigation, right? And that's one incident that we've all been exposed to and seen in real time. How many things are happening that we don't know about, that Kash Patel is deeply involved in, that he was deeply ingrained in, that are patently unconstitutional, illegal, and insane? What did Donald Trump force Kash Patel to do in order to keep his job and his position that maybe even a creep, a sociopath like Kash Patel himself might not have done? What crimes? Because the village idiot is protected from all of it, thanks to the Supreme Court precedent. All the village idiot has to say was, I did it. Well, I did it as an official public, anything. He could do anything. And as long as he can just say it was a public, I did it, as president. It wasn't for me personally. He can get away with it. Anything, including murder, right? Including war crimes. Patel, Pete Hegseth, they're not immune from prosecution. And what did Patel do? What did Pam Bondi do? What is Todd Blanche doing to cover up for the Epstein files? What laws are they breaking? What lies have they told? What files have they seen implicating Donald Trump in, for the rape of young girls? What don't we know? And I think that's why Kash Patel is so absolutely twisted and uncomfortable right now. I think that's why he takes such a deep breath, such an unbelievable deep breath, when he gets a Republican who at least praises him, at one of these hearings, and then he's so terrified when he goes up against the Democrat. Of course, the Democrats, as we've seen, frequently fail to, meet the moment, but some of them don't. I'm sure if if and when Elizabeth Warren gets a hold of him, she will. I think that's an example of someone who will meet the moment. Chris Van Hollen almost met the moment. Senator Murphy, met the moment today. We'll see what happens, but it's some food for thought. It's moments like these, too, that I have to admit I miss Kamala Harris as a senator. Because whatever you want to say about Kamala as a presidential candidate and as a vice president, she was when Kamala, in essence, the prosecutor that she is, cross-examined someone, especially someone like Kash Patel, who's so full of shit, at a Senate confirmation hearing or at a hearing like this, it was brutal. It's brutal and effective. And she had the team and the experience to investigate. And sometimes I wonder if things, for whatever it's worth, if things would have been remarkably different if Biden hadn't chose Kamala as his vice presidential nominee and Kamala had continued on as as a U.S. senator, throughout the Biden administration, and Kamala was still a U.S. senator now, building her political clout in this moment as the Democrats' chief prosecutor in the Senate, one after another. I mean, imagine Kamala, if you remember her, again, prosecuting nonsense, lies, and corruption on the Senate floor. Imagine if she would have been questioning Kash Patel right now. I'm laughing because it would have just been, it would have been something to see. And then she would have run for president in 2028 with all that wind behind her back. Things might have been very different, but it is what it is, right? Anyway, on that note, 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, 1 live at a time. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. If you're, the dog, Pixie's here. She knows we're at the end of the live stream. If you are not currently a subscriber here on Substack or on YouTube, please subscribe. Please like and subscribe. As we build the community up, the Xenocracy community, it helps me continue to do this work. If we're not monetized on YouTube yet, but I'm eager to get there. So let's see if we can get on both of these platforms. We're still small, but we're mighty. Let's see if we can get ourselves to 1,000 subscribers across the board. And if it's something that you're comfortable with and you can do on Substack, please consider upgrading your subscription to a paid subscription or joining as a paid subscriber. But either way, however you come, we love to have you here, and thank you. We're thankful for being here. I'm thankful for you guys being here. Thanks again, guys. And I'll see you soon. Thank you, Winifred. I so appreciate it. The dog is eager to get out of this room now. So I've got to wrap this live, do some quick editing. I've got 2 recordings that I need to get up and out there. And I'll see everybody soon. Maybe get another live in today, or certainly get some verticals in on the other social media posts. Be well, everybody. Take care.